Good evening from Swansea, wrestling fans. I'm your host, Ben Allison, and you are listening to Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast, your one-stop shop for pro wrestling insight, news, and reviews on a daily basis. Today is Mailbag Monday, where we answer your questions that you have submitted via Instagram, and I will also be giving my top 5 wrestlers of the week. But before we get into that, let me introduce you guys to who's joining us today. Firstly, the co-host of the show, Clark Taylor. How are you, Clark?
I'm doing well. I told a bold-faced lie at the end of yesterday's show and said I wouldn't see you tomorrow, and guess what? I'm back again. So I am back. Stoked though. I won't see you Wednesday this week, but fired up to get into it today, and fired up to hear your top 5 wrestlers of the week. Sounds like you put a lot of time into the list, Ben.
Let's hope it goes down well and not like our comments on Instagram Reels for the last week. But also joining us, we have the head of reviewing, Mr. Coby Galenzoski. How are you, Coby?
I'm pretty good. I'm still running off that high of the Bullet Club Gold versus FTR match. Phenomenal match to be there in person, be there for in person, and just to watch. I've seen it twice the televised version of it and one live. So I'm getting there. I don't think I'm watching it today though, but we got Monday Night Raw tonight.
Coby, what star rating would you give that?
So I did do like a thread of just thoughts on the Wrestling Republic Twitter. You didn't see it because I did put some numbers there. I did put it at 4.5. So
nice, yeah. I did
phenomenal match.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Banger after banger on Collision this week. But also joining us, we have Shad. How are you, Shad?
What's going on, Ben? I am here on a Monday. I'm normally not here on Mondays, but you're going to be seeing me more throughout the week. Got new hours at work, so I have time to be on the podcast during the week. So glad to be here today.
We absolutely love to see that, Shad, and we cannot wait to see more of you here on Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast. But first, let's kick things off. Here are my top 5 wrestlers of the week. In at number 5, we have Eddie Kingston. And we know the dude's always dreamed of winning a championship in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Well, this past week he did when he defeated Kenta to win the Strong Championship. So well done to him. And number 4, we have Roman Reigns. Some said the Tribal Court segment was a bit too long at SmackDown. Others said it was a perfect length. But one thing is for sure, no one can deny Roman Reigns' acting throughout the segment was very simply phenomenal. In at number 3, we have Julia. And Julia won New Japan Pro Wrestling Gold this week, as well as she defeated Willow for the Strong Women's Championship in a banger of a bout. In at number 2, MJF. Now, it's no secret I've not been a fan of AEW's Blind Tag Eliminator tournament so far, as the format, well, it's been inconsistent. But MJF's acting this week on Dynamite with Adam Cole was certainly a highlight of it and was absolutely entertaining for that full segment. And then number 1 this week is Jon Moxley. He took part in 2 death matches in 2 days over in Japan this week, and I'm not sure if I love it or I hate it, but I do certainly respect it, and he deserves this week's top spot. So yeah, there it is. Eddie Kingston number 5, Roman Reigns number 4, Julia number 3, MJF number 2, and Jon Moxley at number 1. So there it is, guys. Those are my 5 top wrestlers of this week. And now hopefully that'll be a weekly segment here on the daily broadcast going forward. But now let's move into our other daily segment. Well, not daily, weekly segment on the podcast. And that is Mailbag Monday, where you guys submit your questions via the Instagram stories. And the first one we have is from a longtime watcher and viewer of the show, Jose99, and he is asking, should Brock Lesnar versus Cody Rhodes be a wheelchair match? And I was thinking, well, who can I give this question to? Well, it's got to be the guy who just loves Cody Rhodes. He absolutely loves him. Clark, what do you think?
I love Brock Lesnar as well, but the answer to this question is absolutely not. I don't know what a wheelchair match is. I don't know what it would look like, and no is the answer to that question. If we are going to discuss though what stipulation this match should carry, I have in the past expressed my opinions about not exactly loving Cody Rhodes using the cast. I felt like it gave him an advantage. He got the win in the first match, which was just a straight wrestling match, right? Slightly controversial finish, but a Bret Hart finish. At that, for this third match, it's time for Brock to have the advantage. And inside of the fight pit, no ropes, no Cody Cutter, or maybe there is off the cage. Who knows? But make it a fight in Brock's territory, knockout or submission, right? That being a key factor in the fight pit. We'll see if Brock makes it up to the platform or not. I don't know. But fight pit is my answer, no doubt. This one needs to be, the odds are stacked against Cody no matter how they book the results. They need to stack them as high as they can. Make it as difficult as possible. Broken arm was not odd stacked against because he used it as a weapon. And I did not love that finish, but it doesn't matter. It's gone now. We're looking at the rubber match. It's 1-1. Stack the odds against Cody, and I think that's where we'll get the Cody that I've been looking for. Is the one that's like, no, I don't care anymore. And not that he's not tried to portray that, but he's gonna have his back pushed so far against the wall that we'll get the real response, and we'll get Cody firing on all cylinders for the first time in a while. I think for the first time since his series with Seth, and that's what I'm looking for, because that landed, that passion, that was the truest babyface we've seen in a long time. I complain about the suits, but he was.
Yeah. No, I 100% do agree with you on that. And I've not been quite as harsh to Cody as you have been quite a bit of the time. And you've said it, the reason you're so harsh on him is because you actually quite like Cody and you want to see him succeed. I mean, the only issue that I'd have with it is, do you think there's a possibility fans, might turn on him if he does beat Brock Lesnar in a fight pit where realistically he shouldn't beat Brock Lesnar? I mean, doesn't that go against some of what you've been saying?
See, I actually think they book it the opposite way and Brock wins the series.
Oh, okay.
Where it's 2-1 there, but it's so everything was given in this, and he stood toe to toe and fought him and isn't afraid, and it is at his finest. Maybe gets really close to getting Brock, and then some sort of controversial. I would actually say the logical finish is submission inside the fight pit, right? No, knock him out. Have Brock knock him out.
Oh,
like a shock knockout is how I would book that finish if we're gonna go that far. Have him knock him out, and then Cody is trying to fight after the match still, because he's like, dang it, and he's a little bit down on himself, but he's like, no, I'm not. I stood toe to toe with the former heavyweight champion of the world in multiple organizations and multiple styles of combat, and I'm ready for anything. And that's how we can work him into his next storyline as we build towards that Roman Reigns rematch at WrestleMania 40.
Oh, I'd love to see that. You've sold me. You have sold me on that now. And yeah, I mean, we've seen it over the years. It's pretty much common sense when it comes to wrestling booking at times. You kind of need baby faces to lose some big matches if you are building them, because otherwise fans will just turn on them, right? People complain about it. They always say, well, why does the baby face have to lose feuds before they end up winning a championship? Well, the answer is because that's how to make them come across as a baby face. And it's frustrating, but unfortunately,
I've got even one more way that would be a cool, unique way to do it. Is, and I've joked about not liking the multiple crossroads, but we get to the Cody flurry and he hits the first crossroads and he rolls through and he goes for the next one, and Brock throws an up elbow and catches him. And that's when Cody goes down and goes cold. He throws an elbow up, almost like Yaya Rodriguez hit the back one.
Yeah.
But from the headlock spot, and oh no, he clipped him. He just got him. just barely, right?
Yeah.
But he did knock him out because that's the strength of Brock Lesnar, his big elbow, right? Maybe he throws some earlier, not quite to the obviously the extent he threw him on Randy Orton at SummerSlam, we all remember. But Brock can do some damage with the elbows. That's a story that can be told inside of the fight pit. Not being able to hit the ropes is a disadvantage for Cody. A lot of his offense comes from that. They can kind of tell that story in a way. And then, I like the kind of the Cody gets just so close. He's having a flurry. He goes for that second crossroads and boom, elbow.
Well, I would be down for that. Now I want to see it. I want to see them fight in a fight pit. And let Brock Lesnar take the series to continue the build-up of Cody Rhodes for Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 40, although in reality, I think it'll be Solo Sikoa. But that's a subject for another day that we'll get into another day. I mean, to be honest, we spend most of these shows talking about the Bloodline at this point anyway, so we certainly will get into that. But, well, actually, talking about the Bloodline, this is a perfect, segue to this next segment. Let's talk about who Roman Reigns could fight at the WWE live event in Mexico. And I'm going to be honest, this is one of the most specific questions we've ever had. So I presume the person's going to the live event. If so, enjoy it. And it was submitted by Sabir Evan. And who could Roman Reigns face at WWE Live Mexico? I mean, obviously, the most obvious one, I guess, is Rey Mysterio, right? Roman Reigns has already faced Rey Mysterio at live events. They've got decent chemistry together, and, for a one-off match, it would probably be fun and enjoyable and a good way to, just a good fun main event for the crowd. And Roman Reigns to, take the victory in the end, because, of course, he's not losing it on a live event. But, Shad, who do you think Roman Reigns will face at the event?
I mean, like you said, I think the obvious one would be Rey Mysterio, but I'm gonna pivot off of that. I'm gonna go in the same, umbrella that Rey Mysterio is in, and I'm gonna go with one of his LWO teammates, and I'm gonna go with Santos Escobar.
Ooh.
I feel like WWE has done a great job with just kind of utilizing the moniker of LWO and putting Legado del Fantasma onto it, and also attaching it with Rey Mysterio. And you just see how over they are. We're going back to another international market. And we saw how over they were in another Latino country in Puerto Rico. It's going to be the same thing in Mexico. And honestly, it might be even bigger because that's Santos's stomping grounds. I mean, he's put in major work in Mexico. Like, how much his heritage and his country means to him. I feel like giving him the moment with a title match, as well as just having him in the ring with Roman, could be something that could benefit him, even if it's just a one-off in a live event. Like, you can promote that, you can run clips for it, and it'll help him out. I mean, we've always talked about it. WWE needs to find a way to build these next wave of superstars. It's a fresh match. I mean, we've seen him in key matches. He was just in the Money in the Bank match. I mean, I would, if this was an actual pay-per-view, I even feel like you could build it for that. I mean, you see how great he is. I mean, and I think in-ring chemistry, it could work. I feel like their styles could mesh well. So, and then, because but in theory, it probably will be Rey Mysterio, just because Rey is the more notable name. He's the legend, and it's the same thing for him. But if I had a choice, I would pivot off of Rey, and I would go with Santos Escobar versus Roman Reigns, Mexico City live event. Feel like that'll just be monumental. I'm hoping that's the case, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, he is somebody, yes, Santos Escobar is somebody who's got so much potential. And we've seen it. We've seen him, on the big stage a few times so far this year in the LWO. And certainly a match against Roman Reigns it'd be something different, something fresh, and something that I would 100% 100% be down for, because it would just be a lot of fun, especially on a live event like that. But now let's go to the next question, which is by Mr. Mumbly _ Gumbly on Instagram, and he's gone through some of our old reviews, so shout out to him. And he's gone back to WrestleMania 38, and this was actually before we had the current system in place. It was a slightly different reviewing system at this time, but he was asking us why Sami Zayn. Oh, sorry, the old reviewing system was in place. Sorry, the new reviewing system was in place at this time. Apologies, slight error there. But yeah, he was asking us why Sami Zayn versus Johnny Knoxville. Why wasn't it 5-star? Why wasn't it a 5-star match? Instead, we rated it 3 stars on the system. So, to tell you guys why it is not a 5-star match, we have the head of reviewing, Coby Galenzoski. Coby, what's the reasoning behind this?
Yeah, just to clear the air based on that assumption. Yeah, Sami Zayn and Johnny Knoxville was reviewed when we still had former reviewer John Sorrenzio. That was his last pay-per-view / PLE review that he wrote for us, and that was WrestleMania 38. We introduced the new system a few months before that, and just after the Rumble. So the 3.0 rating was not mine to give. I don't know his rating. I don't know why he gave it to him. If I'm going off of memory based on this match, because I haven't seen it recently, I've watched it when we all watched it when WrestleMania actually happened. I think it would either be it would be in the ballpark of like a 4-star or 4.25. It's one of those matches that did have a 1-star crowd, and I mean you can possibly give the extra 1/4 star to Innovation to make that one as well. But I mean the rest would be like a 0.75, like the fundamentals, the storytelling, because that's what it was. It was anything goes, and you had Mr. Jackass and Johnny Knoxville bringing Sami Zayn into his life. It was a fine story. It was a good match to tell. It was comedy wrestling done well at the end of the day. But I would have said, yeah, either 4 or 4.25. It wouldn't have been as low as it typically was back then.
Yeah, no, that's understandable, and that's a very logical reason, as to why it would be rated that, and why you would personally rate it, a bit higher on the scale because of how great that crowd was and how innovative it was. But Clark, I know you actually watched this. You rewatched this match the other day. So, what did you think about it?
I've loved the match since the outset. I think also that 3.0 rating, the system had just been introduced for basically like a month and a half at that point. And I think on the old system, there might have been some spots where you could dock it more. Outside of the mousetrap malfunctioning, and maybe if you wanted to argue, there were some slightly illogical things in it, but for entertainment value, it's got to be in the 4s. I totally agree with Coby on around 4.0. I used to do reviews myself. There's only a few places you can possibly knock this match. Definitely a 1-star crowd. Definitely a 1-star story told. Innovation 1-star, I think. Maybe fundamentals is the only place you take a 1/4 or maybe even a half, just because it was so. There were spots that were just for what it was, but definitely deserved to be higher and in the 4s. But the original question being 5 stars, after going back and watching it, it's so great for what it's supposed to be, but to put it in a 5-star category is a stretch. And that would be my answer to that one,
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a very good answer as well. I mean, at the time when we did rate that, I'm going to be honest, I didn't have a huge problem with it because obviously the system has just been introduced and all of that, like you touched upon, Clark. But yeah, the one place where you can knock it down to maybe even just a quarter star or more likely half a star is fundamentals, because it wasn't like a classic wrestling, fundamentally sound wrestling match, right? Of course, Sami Zayn's phenomenal in the ring, right? He's not somebody who has tons of botches or anything like that.
Yeah.
So he managed to carry Johnny Knoxville, but Johnny Knoxville isn't a wrestler, so it's difficult.
Now, I will say this though, Sammy had an amazing quote about the match on Stone Cold's Broken Skull sessions. And he mentions that he was very aware that the mousetrap had malfunctioned. And he said, this is how much of a natural, though, Johnny Knoxville is for the business. He recognized it right away and pulled it into a position where it still looked close enough for the actual image on the pin. And so Johnny deserves some credit there for putting the work in, being interested in the sport, and having the natural entertainer's ability to adjust on the fly, right? As much as, because a mousetrap spot isn't a fundamental wrestling move. So I don't want to say that that's the reason that I'm docking fundamentals. I actually thought, after hearing Sammy talk about it, I'm like, that's actually pretty incredible. It's one of the best stories that comes out of that match, I think. In hindsight, right, outside of kayfabe. It's just cool to know, right? Like, that's amazing. No, Johnny had the wherewithal to go, oh no, this, and the image of the pin, you would have no idea that the mousetrap actually malfunctioned. Right?
Yeah.
If you just take the skill shot, and there's something to be said about that. I really loved the match. I don't have many complaints. It's hard to nitpick at that one.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's fair. I think I'm a bit tougher than everybody else here, probably, when it comes to, the comedic wrestling matches, because I love them. But at the same time, when we're talking about anything near 5 stars, I just personally don't think you can put a comedy match as 5 stars. But I think they 100% have their place in wrestling, and I'll go to bat for them, because at the end of the day, wrestling's meant to be a bit of fun. And in terms of an overall show structure, it can be great for the show structure as well. But that's a conversation for another day. Let's actually have a conversation right here, right now, though, about mid-card title belts, mid-card championships. And a question is by Soul. It was submitted by Soul via Instagram, and he is asking us, what is our favorite mid-card title, both past and present? And we're going to go around everybody for this, right? And I'm not going to, say that this is specifically design or, the belt itself, the rules, whatever. Just take this question however you want, right? I'm going to take it as a bit of both. If we're talking past, I'm not going to go too far into the past, and I'm actually going to say New Japan Pro Wrestling's IWGP Intercontinental Championship belt, because I love that belt. I love the look of it. It was so prestigious. The matches were just bangers after bangers after bangers. Top-notch stuff, and I honestly often, was looking forward to the Intercontinental title matches more than the World Heavyweight Championship matches. And so there's a title I was really sad to see go when they unified it into the the new IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. But if we're talking if we're talking present, then I'm going to say the Ring of Honor Pure title. And this actually isn't about looks at all. This is very simply because I've said it on the show before. I don't like mid-card titles when they just basically are the same rules and everything as the world title. I don't really like it. I think either you do something where you need to defend it each and every week, like you do an open challenge, you're forced to do an open challenge, or they has a different rule set or something. And the pure rule set I've always loved. The only issue ever with it is that it's sometimes difficult to get the crowd into, it needs to be a hardcore wrestling crowd to get them into it. But still, the pure title was something which just it succeeded for so many years in Ring of Honor. And of course, now they have brought it back, and I think it's doing great as well. One of the highlights of ROH, current ROH, since Tony Khan has purchased the company. So yeah, current pure past the IWGP Intercontinental Championship. But Shad, I'll go to you first. What is your favorite mid-card title, both past and present?
My favorite past belt probably will have to be the Wing Eagle Intercontinental title belt. I love the aesthetic of it. More so I think it's the big blue one, the one I think that Austin ended up retiring. Not the. I know they had the
No,
one with
that
the
was
white
the
straps.
WWE. That was the WWE title. The Intercontinental one, I think you're thinking of is. Are you thinking of the purple one, The Rock carried?
Nah, it's the big blue. The during the Attitude Era one. It was like the gold, and it had the blue. I'm trying to pull it up just to make sure I'm.
I think that was a world title.
Yeah, I think that's a world title.
Was
Shad.
that the
You might be.
world title?
Yeah, that was the
Oh
world
man,
title.
I'm
No, you're good.
tripping.
You're good.
Okay,
You're good. That's what I was trying
man.
to say. I'm like, Rock had a purple strap one temporarily with the IC,
Yeah,
and then
no,
there was
yeah,
the white
yeah, yeah.
one
No,
as well.
I'm sorry. Wow, yeah. Then it's probably gonna be that world title. I like the look of it. I don't know. I guess it just takes me back to a time frame of my childhood. Current day ones, man, that's difficult. I I don't really like a lot of the current. I don't really like a lot of the WWE mid card title looks now. I'm not a big fan of the new IC one. Um, the US title is always whatever to me. I ain't gonna lie to you. It might be a it might be a hot take or whatnot. But and it's not even that new of a title. I guess it has a lineage from before. But I really do like what is the W title, the one
Yeah.
Yeah, there you
I
go.
like.
That's a great point.
I like that belt a lot. I feel like it has its very distinct look to it and whatnot. So I mean, besides that, I do like the what you said with the ROH, the pure title belt as well. I think that's a good one. Actually I also do like the North American title on NXT as well.
Yeah.
I think that's a pretty nice looking belt as well. So those will probably be my choices.
Yeah, and that's a good one for sure. North American title belt. I love the design of it. I really, really do. Coby, what about you?
I got a good one that came to mind that just based on present. I obviously we're not going title designs. We're just going mid card titles. Period. If I had to give one, which I am given only one, it has to be Impact's X Division Championship. And
Good
because we
choice.
look about what the X Division was, X Division normally was built around high flying, high risk, and fast paced action. They had the tagline, it's not about weight limits, it's about no limits. So that's why they were able to put people like Brian Cage and Josh Alexander and all those people in the X Division to have runs without being the typical smaller guy that can do a lot of athletic stuff. But a lot of the stuff that you can talk about is this is TNA's first exclusive title. Because from 2002, and I don't want to say the exact year, but probably about maybe 5 years into their history, they were using a lot of NWA World Tag titles, NWA World title. This was TNA's X Division Championship. So it means a massive amount to TNA and Impact in general, but this was their exclusive title.
Mm.
And when you look at it, Unbreakable 2005 was the very famous, very classic match Samoa Joe, AJ Styles, Christopher Daniels in the main event, which wasn't for the world title. The world title was semi main event. This was for the X Division Championship. There's a lot of history. It's when you look at it, there's a lot of people like the past in there. We can talk about recency bias in what Josh Alexander and Trey Miguel have both done for the title, have both made it so that it is a desirable title and it's not something that's just like for the athletically acrobatic type of style. It just means a lot. And the X Division in general is always such a highlight for Impact Wrestling, and it's so entertaining to watch to see what it's become, and the history is amazing.
Yeah. So is that your answer for both the past and the present?
I mean, present I could say like North American, but I mean in general I would say X Division Championship.
Fair enough. I mean, it is a phenomenal shot, and your
That's fair.
explanation as well. The history behind it, it means a lot more than a lot of these mid-card titles nowadays. And certainly it's had so many bangers over the years. But come on then, last but certainly not least, Clark, what are you saying for firstly your past and then your present mid-card championships?
So I'm kind of laughing at myself, and in hindsight, I I viewed the question as like, what was my favorite mid card title to watch? Not necessarily design wise. And full disclosure, as far as the title design is concerned, I don't care unless it's ugly.
Yeah.
I don't care how. That's not my first priority. So I'm going to give you a few honorable mentions on my past titles. First and foremost, the IC title, whether it was the white strap in the mid 90s through the Attitude Era where we had the purple strap on the Rock title, as I said before, and then eventually the black strap with the more oval shaped sideways belt look. But that division as a whole, it made Jeff Hardy, it made Rob Van Dam, it made a lot of awesome Shawn Michaels. If you go back to the white design, it made so many high quality wrestlers. That's why it's honorable mention. The other honorable mention is the ECW television title.
Ooh.
Rob Van Dam made that belt. More than that belt made Rob Van Dam, but that belt was as cool as any of them. And I'm not talking about the design. I mean the fact that Rob carried it and the way he carried it. Now, for my pick, this might be controversial because you might go, no, it's the low card. No, it's mid card. WCW Cruiserweight title. That division was the most exciting division of wrestlers in the late 90s you could possibly ask for. They were putting on matches that they had to get in a time machine for. It was not Back to the Future. It was to the Future at that point. That's what we saw during that whole era. All those Cruiserweight title matches, all the rivalries in that division, all that belt represented at the time, in hindsight, is bigger than it ever was during the present back then. It was my favorite. For current, this one was difficult because I can't stand most of them. I'm really not a fan of the majority of the modern mid-card titles. I think we struggle with them. And I'm going to pick one that may shock you. But it's also one I think that the wrestler has remade the title as opposed to the title making the wrestler. And it was on my honorable mention list before, and that's Gunther and the IC title. I currently think is the most valuable mid-card championship in professional wrestling. He has made it that again. My only caveat is the belt's ugly. Give us a cool one like we had before. That is the only reason it wasn't the only logical pick. I had to think about other ones because that belt is hideous. Knock it off.
No,
Knock
I mean,
it off.
that is. It's
Give
a
us
common
a better
complaint.
belt.
And I mean, I put it into a Photoshop and I give it a white strap, and even that looks a lot better because the gold kind of just it goes nicer with it. I like my IC belts to have white straps, I do. But that is a great call, Clark. Gunther has really brought prestige back to the Intercontinental Championship. But let's now talk about a new championship, and that is Seth Rollins' new World Heavyweight Championship. And the big question, I mean, we've been talking about it, over the last couple of weeks on the Daily, what is next, for Seth Rollins? Like, who is he going to defend against at SummerSlam? And presumably tonight on Raw, we are going to find out. Now, of course, last week, they were doing Dominic Mysterio and Seth Rollins in the main event. And it was a very, It was a very good match. Clark just put something in the private chat.
This is my fault. This is completely my fault.
I had a bit of a misspeak there, and that's made the episode, to be honest, guys. But anyway, let's get back to Seth Rollins.
I'm a child, guys. Seth Rollins.
Seth Rollins versus Dirty Dominic Mysterio, and just like Dirty Clark Taylor, who's now had to leave the camera angle because he can't stop laughing.
I'm sorry. I'm 5 years old.
It was, basically Damian Priest and Finn Balor were both teased. They both want a World Heavyweight Championship opportunity against Seth Rollins. The big issue with doing a triple threat at SummerSlam, which they could be doing, is, well, Damian Priest is holding Money in the Bank, and I hate it when Money in the Bank winner gets a world title opportunity without cashing in. They've done it before, I know. It's nothing new, but I still hate it. I personally think they are going with the triple threat. I think that's what they're going to do. But while I give Clark some time to compose himself, I'll head over to Coby. Coby, who do you think will be challenging Seth Rollins at SummerSlam?
I think that's the thing is we were skeptical and we revealed it, and I know this was Ben's original pitch. I don't think this is the move, and that's the Cody Brock and Seth. Unless you're going for Cody Brock to blow it off after, like yeah, I don't think that's the move. As we can see, yes, Seth is still very much involved within Judgment Day storyline and Judgment Day business. We don't know how it's going to go, and we don't know the direction NXT's taken the Judgment Day stuff because we know Finn Balor and the Judgment Day are showing up tomorrow as well, which is going to be interesting. The only thing I like, my main question is do we just get a Finn Balor and Seth rematch because it's at SummerSlam? Is that the best decision they could make? I don't know. I'm sure they could sell us on that fact, but the other question I can kind of pose or we can ponder about is does Damien fail his cash in on one of the upcoming Raws, and that's the reason why it's Finn versus Priest versus Seth. I think that's the logical way because that gives him a reason to be in that position and be in the match itself. Seth, you can use the respect Seth has for Priest as well, based on their match from early in June. There's ways you can get to it. I think Seth is staying in the Judgment Day scenario and problem. I'm just curious to see where they're going because it's kind of clear that Carmelo Hayes isn't going to face an on NXT talent at Great American Bash. It seems like it's probably going to be a Judgment Day guy. Well, I don't want to say it. Is it going to be Dominic Mysterio? I don't think so. I hope not. That I mean, to go from Braun Breaker to Baron Corbin, which Baron Corbin delivered, and then to Dominic Mysterio, it's got to be one of the weirder NXT reigns if that actually is true. But I don't know where it plays out. I'm interested. That's all I can really say of the matter.
So can we stop this dirty Dom slander? Right? I feel like we're just insulting Dominic Mysterio on the show every day now.
Do you want to see him and Carmelo Hayes? That's the question. I don't. I like the Dominic stuff. I don't want to see the match.
Yeah, I don't know, but I do
think
see
you're putting too much. I think you're putting too much on Carmelo's shoulders in that sense.
Oh, I hope Dom doesn't watch this podcast. We've just been insulting him the last couple of days and moving on to somebody else who enjoys insulting Dominic Mysterio in his spare time. Clark Taylor, what do you think?
I promise I'm not going to hurt your feelings today, Dom. This doesn't have anything to do with you. I think Mr. Rollins' next move is a logical rivalry where Priest can tease the cash in. That's probably still Finn Balor. I wish that they had something to establish Finn as still the contender, and then we can work our way into maybe a triple threat where what I think would be a cool way to, if we're really, the direction is let's for sure have Damian Priest cash in. Let's have Rollins, Balor, and Priest in a triple threat. Rollins defeats Balor again, and Damian stands up and cashes in again, and have him cash in and win the title, and then run with that for maybe payback, give him a week with the belt, so that we can call him a former WWE champion, and then we'll move right back into Seth Rollins. I think that makes the most logical sense in my eyes. As far as what they've built to this point, that's what I think they're going to do. Am I like super fired up about it? Not really, other than that Seth Rollins is so good, it'll be entertaining.
Yeah, no, I mean, absolutely. Anything Seth does is just banger. Banger after banger after banger. I think I've said that 4 times on the podcast tonight. But Shad, what about you? Who or what do you think is next for the architect, Seth Rollins?
See, this is where, as much as I am a fan of Damian Priest, and I think he's an incredible worker, and I think he's a viable person to be a future champion, his briefcase to me is in such an odd space because it holds a lot of ties to the feud within what's going to be him and Finn Balor, and also within him and Seth Rollins, where I'm just feeling that it may be a unsuccessful cash in because I just don't see them taking the title off of Seth. And I don't want to see Damian have a failed cash in, but it's just kind of what the situation may be. But I mean, Seth his next opponent has to be in some sort of like stratosphere between what's going on with Judgment Day, because that's really the only feud that he's tied to, and that's really the only people he's consistently mixing it up with, besides him having like open challenge matches. And they teased the idea with Brock and Cody, but I thought that was just the way to get their feud to kind of continue on. But in my mind, I feel like it's gonna be him versus. I think there's gonna be a way to get it to a triple threat match as well. The only other idea I could think of is, him versus Finn Balor, but we're just gonna add a little seasoning to it and make him the Demon, and maybe him and the Demon fight, and maybe Damian cashes in there and gets it. I mean, that's a possibility. I mean, you can in that way you technically can run back Finn versus Seth, but you can make it a little bit different because you have him with the Demon character. So I think it's either going to be that, or there's going to be some way that they'll try to build it in to a triple threat match. But it's definitely going to be him versus some person on the Judgment Day. And Coby, I think it is going to be Dominic Mysterio versus Carmelo Hayes for that title at Great American Bash as well.
Well,
And I would not be surprised if Dom gets the title off of him. Who knows? Let's add.
Dirty Dom as NXT champion. I wouldn't hate that. You know what? I wouldn't hate it, but
either.
also don't take the title off my boy Carmelo Hayes.
I'm messing around. But I hope that doesn't happen. But who knows, man?
It could
be a resume builder.
It would, and it would help him. It would help him.
So to your point though, I know you said that it would be, I guess, a knockdown. It knocks down a couple pegs, I guess, as an in-ring opponent. But Dominic's popularity at the moment is higher than a Baron Corbin. And then it's just the fact that he's got this, whether it may be real heat or not real heat, whatever you want to call it, the crowd interacts and boos him like crazy, where they dislike him. And I feel like with his character and him having the Judgment Day there, I feel like that would make a special moment for the NXT crowd if they did have a title match.
I figured it out. I've just figured out what they're going to do. You're right. Dominic's going to win, because what's going to happen is that Dominic's going to win the NXT title. Damien's going to cash in and win the World Heavyweight Championship. And then Finn Balor's going to either get jealous and get himself kicked out, or just simply get kicked out of the group. So then you'll have Rhea with the title, Dominic with the title, and Damien with the title. And then Damien, a couple of weeks later or whatever, can lose the title.
They love the Judgment Day, man. They love the Judgment Day. And I will say this, man. I was very hesitant about what the Judgment Day was initially created, but they were able to spin that back and make it a lot more of a powerful unit, and a very popular unit for their show.
They made it something.
It's true. It's very entertaining. It is.
I mean,
And that would also explain.
It's not failing to control some damage. So.
That is also true, Coby. I mean, it would also explain why
Yeah.
Dom didn't. It would explain why Dom didn't lose the other day as well, cleanly. Like if they are protecting him for an NXT,
but he lost to Cody.
That was a week before that. We ignore that.
But that's Cody though. That's the top guy. That's one of the top
Seth
guys.
Rollins is the champ.
So Seth, to be
and
fair,
Seth is the champ.
Yeah.
NXT's back to a developmental, right? They're not hiding that. I mean, Carmelo lost as well, didn't he? And Braun Breaker
before Money in the Bank.
Yeah. So I mean, at the end of the day, it wouldn't be anything new. But there's a few different ways they can go about it, and I'm excited to see what they have planned. They're certainly high on the Judgment Day, and Clark, I know you've had different feelings about them throughout the last few months, but I'm loving them on Raw at the minute. They are the highlight of the show and have been for quite.
I'll admit, since Mania, it's the best they've been. Period.
Oh yes, absolutely. But that, guys,
I'll admit that
That brings us to the end of the episode, and it's been a banger after banger after banger of an episode. 5th time I've said that today. I hope you guys enjoyed the top 5. I also hope we answered all your questions appropriately. And if you're watching on YouTube, please leave a thumbs up, a comment, and a cheeky little subscribe button. If you're on Spotify, a cheeky 5 stars, that will do us lovely. We will be back here tomorrow an hour later, so at 9 p.m. UK time, 4 p.m. Eastern, and 1 p.m. Pacific. It'll be me, Clark, and Chaos, and we will be doing a Raw review. But thank you to Clark, Shad, and Coby for joining me today. It's been a great show, guys. See you tomorrow. Enjoy.